Well, hello everyone. I'm Jill Bloom, publisher of Roofing Contractor, Walls and Ceilings, and Building Enclosure. Thank you for joining us, whether you are watching or listening on podcast. Rick D'Amato and I are honored to be here today with Bill Collins, the Director of National Accounts at Servco LLC. And I am so excited to be here with Bill today because he really has an incredible history in the industry. Bill, I think you and I have known each other for probably since I started 22 years ago. So, first and foremost, Bill, welcome and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jill.
Well, I know it's very clear from the conversations we've had recently, Bill, that you have been really busy. So, can you tell us, is this late in your career, what is your latest academic pursuit?
Okay, well, in 2017, I became intrigued by all this media and government talk about cybersecurity. There had been a major data breach at Equifax that has accessed 145 million US customers and personal data, including my own. That same year, WannaCry and Petra ransomware attack affected hundreds of thousands of computers in more than 150 countries, even though a patch had already been sent out by Microsoft on the Windows operating system. And months before that, but users had failed to install it. Well, the Wall Street Journal at that time indicated that there was going to be about a shortfall of 3 million cybersecurity jobs by 2020. Knowing very little about IT and computers in general, I became worried about the vulnerabilities of my own computer and, more importantly, of my roofing and other construction industry clients. So I entered a one-year master's certificate program at Villanova University in cybersecurity. But the more I learned about the legal aspects of e-commerce, cyber threats and defenses, computer forensics and risk assessments and secure software development and cyber behavioral analytics and control system security and on, the more I became alarmed and shifted into the full-time 3-year program for a master's of science in cybersecurity. And this pushed me to learn about ethical hacking and network encryption and AI and machine learning, quantum computing, government regulations. And as a result, I ended up earning a degree last December and graduated with the class of 2020 this May. Actually,
that is awesome. Congratulations.
Well, actually, the pandemic helped me take this course a little bit faster since there wasn't much else to do.
Yeah, it definitely put everybody online taking classes if you were able to, which is what you took full advantage of. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, Rick, you want to kick off with the next question?
Yes, thanks, Bill. Thanks for being here. We're delighted to have you join us today. Tell us what you learned. If you could pick 2 or 3 of the broad ideas, the scope of threat preparedness and security philosophies.
Okay, well, the most important concept I got is that nothing is unhackable. There are even many ways to break into what's known as multi-factor authentication, which we all think is secure. Then I learned that criminals and nation state actors are usually after the money these days, which means ransom dollars. And they can and actually do buy pre-configured malware on the dark web that can break into your web page or network in seconds, with programs that get more sophisticated daily. There are actually 240,000 new malware variants created every single day. And it's not a kid behind a computer doing this, it's all automated. And like marketing, it's a numbers game. Nobody is, they go after everybody, big or small. They can send out millions of attacks a day and it costs almost nothing. If they only get a 3% hit rate, they get rich fast. And so for the internet user, it's not a matter of if you'll be breached, it's just when and how you respond. Now, fortunately, this is the good news, the criminals look for the easiest target. So you don't have to outrun the bear, as the expression goes, you just have to outrun the other targets.
Wow.
Well, we've seen in recent weeks, how critical infrastructure, how susceptible it is. Pipelines, meat packing companies, large companies, but they are large companies with big assets and ability to pay big ransoms. Why do contractors need to be paying attention?
Well, because if they break into your network and they get sensitive files through what's known as a phishing attack, through an employee's PC or phone, that gives the attacker remote access. And not only does this expose your sensitive information or competitive information that may expose third-party information that you're required to protect, that if you don't, and it leaks out, even if you do everything right, you have both a legal liability for your firm that you may have contacts with or contracts with, but also regulators can come after you if you don't keep things confidential. So you've got a risk of losing information, higher ransom payments, or fine, because if they leak this information out, you don't want to have to get fined by the government or sued, so you'd be willing to pay a ransom. So there's that side. But there's also the fact that badly designed or old, poorly maintained websites can be what's called a watering hole or subject to a cross-site scripting attack that affects your data and that of the visitors. That is to say, a visitor who visits your site, automatically malware gets planted on their device, and that's or steals the session credentials so they can break in and play what's called man in the middle and interrupt the conversation. So this is the fact that even if you've got good perimeter protection, there's a risk that a prior or disgruntled employee or a competitor with knowledge of passwords can open or access your valuable business information. And so contractors have to be aware that they're very targetable for these attackers that are automated. And there's been a shift now to go after what's known as SMS, which is people are used to texts on their phones. Well, the attackers are now shifting to smartphones more than PCs because, well, there are 3 times more smartphones than PCs, and 81% of Americans actually use a smartphone, and 21% of Americans actually use smartphone as their only internet user access. So that's because everybody's using in the construction industry, smartphones all the time. And the average response time for someone opening a text on a smartphone is, 98% of the time they open it, in 90 seconds they respond. Well, as in an email, people maybe only open 20% of the emails and don't respond for an hour and a half. So it's easy to see why more than half the internet worldwide traffic is driven through mobile devices. And this is why a phishing attack on a smartphone is a great target for criminals. And it doesn't matter whether you have an Apple phone or an Android.
Bill, so if I heard you correctly, even though the contractor may not be a big target, he may be working for or with or for one of these big infrastructure projects and reporting right directly to the owner or to the general contractor. You could, a small sub could even become part of that attack. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's right. Even though you may not be the ultimate target, you're a gateway into a bigger target. And the better contractors, the bigger general contractor and facility owners will now require you to put in a framework to even before they'll give you the business, because they don't want to expose themselves to an attack. And so there are frameworks or checklists of things that you should do. And that's another reason why you need to be smart about this, because you may be able to differentiate yourself to your potential customers by saying you have a framework in place.
I understand. And on the other side of the coin, if you are using one of the good programs that's out there for roof maintenance, so that you can give your customers a portal, look at the things you're doing on their roof and to see how that business is going. Is there a danger or a liability for roofing contractors offering a portal to their customers? Or some things they should be doing to protect themselves and their customer?
Well, there turns out that there are 3 elements of protection. One is you have to have a policy which tells you what you're going to do and follow it. You have to educate your people so they don't click on, crazy little, emails or texts that open up, that they will plant a malware on the machine. But then you also have to have technology. So it's people, policy, and technology, and you need to work on all 3. Of course, the people are the weakest link, because people get tired, and if they aren't used to being, they make mistakes, and if they aren't used to being careful about what they open and what they click. it turns out some screens are touch screens, and a malware can have something that looks like a hair that's floating across your screen. If you touch it, trying to wipe it off the screen, you just downloaded a malware program onto your computer. So that's called click tricks. And so there are all sorts of ways that you'll get fooled into opening up a malware that automatically gets loaded on your machine. Once it's in your machine, now you're into the entire network. They don't have to, break in. They are now in because they're in your machine with remote access.
So they're called click tricks. Is that what I heard you say?
Click tricks.
So what are some other examples of click tricks? I've never even heard about something that looks like a hair crossing your screen that you're trying to wipe off.
It could be a fly or anything. It could look like something. And what they did is they just, it turns out they can also get onto your people's web pages and so that when someone visits your web page, they think they're just getting your information, but now your customer gets affected because they click on something that now, will infect their machine. So your customers could get infected. It's not just your own, but now once they get back into your network or their network, they have both horizontal and vertical access to everything. And there are all sorts of ways to utilize that to get the very sensitive files.
Wow.
Now, you think that you protect yourself with technology, antivirus, everybody has on their computer. That's good. But once they get into your machine because you clicked it, they don't need the antivirus software won't stop them. They're already in. They can, and then it can keep track of your keystrokes. And so that they can watch you type in your password, and then they can use that. And now you get into financial, now you can transfer finances.
So if you accidentally click on something and you've downloaded this malware, how do you know it right away?
No, in fact, what's happened is it could just stay dormant in your machine for a very long time. The average amount of time before someone realizes they've been sabotaged I think in the US it's now 200 days or something before you realize and they may be extracting information the whole time. Now your machine will probably slow down and you'll probably get some indication of that something's not right. And then once they have collected enough information, then they'll threaten you because now they've already spent months or weeks collecting information. They said, I'm going to publish this out to the internet unless you pay me a ransom. And of course, if they do that, your information you're supposed to protect, called PII, personal identifiable information, in places like California, Connecticut, New York, and other places that are passing these privacy things, you can get sued up to $7,500 per data record per incident. So if you got 1,000 records out there, they're going to tell you, if you don't pay the ransomware, I'm going to release it out there. You got the risk of being, fined or sued to the tune of $7 to $10 million. How about you just pay me? And that's why the average cost of fixing these things is about $120,000. And it turns out 50% of small businesses, which are construction contractors, up to 500 employees, have actually been hacked in the last year. They just don't know it necessarily.
So they just don't know it. So they're just waiting. So basically these cyber attack people or this program that's so random or automated, like you were saying, has possibly been downloaded, and they wait. You said they wait up to 200 days.
Well, no, it's often takes that line. They don't necessarily wait. They just keep collecting till they think they have enough information to make it interesting. It's just that you have things like you have your IT people who might check your stuff and they notice things are running slowly. And there are all sorts of logs that your computer keeps track of everything that's going on. Well, if someone isn't periodically checking those logs to see if someone has, something strange is going on, they look for patterns. And if there's a pattern that doesn't look normal, or stuff is getting exfiltrated, because not only do they collect information, but they're actually extracting it. Well, your computer will log that, and you may have open ports and things that you need, that your IT people or managed service provider needs to close so that they can't do that whenever they want.
Holy cow. So there's contractors out there right now that have been hacked and they don't even know it.
Likely.
Oh my gosh.
The estimate is that it's 50% of small business contractors have been hacked in the last year. Because remember, just one employee who opens by mistake, an email attachment, or clicks on their phone on a text that doesn't look for like someone or does one of those click trick things, that now is downloaded to their system, and now it goes throughout the network.
My goodness. No shortness of good news today.
Well, again, the good news was that the bad guys do figure out who the weakest links are, because you can actually tell where, if someone doesn't click on your web page, you can see what ports they have open remotely. And if someone looks pretty protected, you just go on to the next person. So if you're better than the other guy, you won't get hit. The criminal goes to the next house.
Well, I say that a bit tongue in cheek because knowledge really is power in almost any endeavor. And certainly when it comes to operating a networked computer system. Where do contractors start though, Bill? Where do you start down the road to try to work out many details you need to work out to protect yourself and the clients connected to your own system?
Okay. Well, that's a great place to comment that what you really need to do is you need to put together what's known as a proper security framework. It's basically a checklist of things to do. Now, various organizations put that out. The most accepted one is called NIST, N-I-S-T, which National Institute of Science and Technology, or what's called the SANS Top 20 or AWAS Top 10 security program. The point is there are security frameworks that you can get your hands on that often the large vendors will require to use this before they give you business. But that's the first thing, is to take a look at those lists, and they have a checklist. And once you go down that, you can figure out what things you need to do. I think that's a good starting point. The other one is do training, constantly train with sort of creating a culture of security, with programs that teach your employees not to fall for these tricks. That's maybe when you hire somebody first time. The other thing that happens is some contractors let employees bring their own phones. It's bring your own device, BYOD. Well, that means that you're not managing or watching the patterns on their phones, and you have no way control of it. If you allow, whether it's a subcontractor or employees, to bring their own device, you're more exposed, because they may not, because there are ways that you can protect end devices. Now, if they click on something, they'll still get in, but at least the antivirus stuff, if it's your own computer or the company's own computer device, helps. But if you're going to let somebody bring their own, you need to be even more careful about educating them. And you also need to make sure that you have them disable ports and channels that aren't used. That's the first thing, is know what you've got and make sure your people are trained. Secondly, and that may mean you need a security company to help you do that. But then what you have to do is you're going to have to back up your data periodically on in your network, so that if somebody does hack you, because they have two things: they can ask for a ransom, but they can also say, I'm going to lock down all your data so you can't operate your business. Of course, that means you may not be able to service your web page or do business with anybody, and they'll ask for well, if you've got it backed up, you can immediately reload everything and you're back in business. So it's a matter of hours, not a matter of weeks or months where you're out of business, because then you kind of almost have to pay the ransom, which is what happened with Colonial Pipeline. They wanted to get back in operation.
Oh, absolutely.
So good cyber hygiene, as it's called, is to educate your people, back up your data, and then make sure your passwords, when people are using passwords, that they're long. Longer passwords are better than short. A eight character password can be broken in about 38 seconds these days. 17 character password, just use Mary Had a Little Lamb and add 1 behind it or 8 behind it. Even something as common as that, it'll take them weeks or months to crack it. One of my classes, I had to crack the professor's web page and email, and it took me, before I could even take a midterm exam, and it took me about a minute. So so keep changing. And he purposely had his password only 8 characters long. So
wow,
all sorts of so length is strength, and that's important. And then, like I say, when you hire people, you want to educate them and have periodic updates. Now, when this education thing, there are programs, and some of them are absolutely free online training. There's something called wisertraining.com. That's WIZER-training.com. And by the way, Jill, I had a list of all the various references you may want to use.
Yes.
That's in there. That's free, but there are some that are more robust, that make it more fun to listen to, and the way it tests the employees, and it keeps track of who's falling for these tricks, and it increases the sophisticated of the tricks, so that they figure out which people are getting it. And those cost a little bit, although I can help any clients that or anybody listening to this to get a discounted rate on that if they need help. So that's the more sophisticated one, but at least use the free training tools, because they at least it sensitizes your people to what's out there.
Well, Bill, I'm telling you, there is so much to talk about. And I want all the contractors out there to pay attention to this, because whether you're an architect, a contractor, on roofing contractor, or walls and ceilings, or like I just mentioned, an architect or a consultant, anybody in the building enclosure industry, there is so much to talk about, because this affects every single one of us. And this is we're just scratching the surface with you, Bill, because there's a lot more to talk about. When it comes to this topic.
Let me throw a teaser out there, Jill, because Bill,
Yeah?
we're gonna get with you to one way or another crack the code on the security checklist, the framework checklist. I'd like to do some real life examples of how that works, because I know the way it for a guy that just got a master's degree and all this stuff, it seems very simple to you, but for a guy like me, I'm gonna need help with that. So I think that's something we're going to want to offer our listeners.
All I know right now is I'm changing all my 8-digit passwords right now.
Well, make it a phrase, even a phrase that, like Mary had a little lamb, even though you think someone would guess that helps. So use phrases. The other thing is, if you don't understand something, Google it, because Google explains all this stuff. You don't have to get a master's degree to understand it. If you come across a question, I figured out in this class that Google was my friend, because all the terms are crazy.
Oh boy. Well, Bill, again, thank you so much for your time. I'm so excited to help bring this important issue to the forefront with everybody in our industries. And again, I can't tell you much. I appreciate your time. But if anybody does have any questions for you, Bill, how can they get a hold of you?
You can call me at 201-486-3498, or you can send me an email. I'll be checking it to look for things that look fishy, but it's William Wallace Collins. My name, William Wallace, like Braveheart, Collins @msn.com. So pretty easy to get in touch with me there. Or you can go on the servcollc.com webpage, and you can get links there, and I can try and connect you with people who can help you.
Oh, well, that'll be fabulous. And again, thank you to everybody who's listening and watching. If you have any questions for us, make sure you visit us at buildingenclosureonline.com, wconline.com, or roofingcontractor.com. And while you are there, make sure you sign up for our free e-newsletters. We have an incredible new platform for our e-magazine. It's free to register for our website, so you can always stay up to date and watch all the great videos and listen to all the incredible podcasts that we're putting together. But in the meantime, please stay safe and healthy, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.